Hello, good morning. Good morning, everyone. So, today I want to discuss about the structure of a project. Okay, I think these structure it is also somehow a mandatory in order to understand structure of a project. Okay, so how this structure it is useful means this well-defined package structure it is crucial for managing a clean, scalable, and maintaining a code base also. So as the software projects go, these complexity of managing a code increases. These adopting a logical and consistent structure not only enhances the organization and also improves the collaboration, okay, among developers, and this increases the readability, the understandability, okay. So this reduces the confusion also, and it facilitates the easier of the onboarding for new and team members, okay. So if you don't follow this type of structure, then what will happens means that so may the freshers will come to the office, may they don't understand how you are writing the code and what is the structures that you follow or something, okay. So in order to give a better structure for the project, that's how these project will grow in a great way, okay. So it's most important, okay. So now we are discussing this PayPal integration structure. It's integrated with the PayPal API, okay. And let's understand what is the importance, okay. So this package structure, I said it's a package structure. So the today my main theme it is nothing but the package structure, okay. The importance, okay. So a clear package structure that offers a several significant benefits as well, okay. So let's understand first what are those benefits, and then you use it's mandatory, it's definitely you need to write the code in the form of package structure only, okay. Don't ever miss, and don't ever make any mistakes by avoiding this, okay. So I said these importance, then you will definitely understand the importance, okay. So a logical organization of classes or files make it easy for developers to locate and understand the code, okay. So when developers can quickly navigate the project structure, they can focus on writing code, okay, rather than the searching files repeatedly, okay. So as a software field, it needs to be we need to Sada, we need to see these files as many times as we need, okay, in order to do any changes or in order to add any field, okay. We just need to go through that files repeatedly. So if there are any random structure, how does we can access them, okay. So it increases the readability, okay. And next, as a project expands, so a structured, well packaged layout allows for easier scaling. So new features and functionalities can be added without cluttering existing code, okay, ensuring that the system remains in an organized way, and it is also easy to manage and maintain also, okay. And also, um, okay, let me write, okay. So what is the benefits? First benefit, it is nothing but it improve, sorry, it improved readability, and it improves scalability also, and it improves modularity also, okay. What is mean modular? It means these package structure promotes separation of concepts, meaning that different aspects of the application, just like the controllers, another one is services, and the head data access layers and the utils, so many fields are right, okay. So this separation makes it is easier to maintain, test, and refactor the code as well, okay. And the next feature then we have that facilitating modularity. Okay, so what it means that in a team environment, let's say in a team environment, a standardized package structure helps for developers to understand the each other's work more effectively. Okay, when every team member follows the same structure, merging changes become smoother and the risk of the conflict it is also minimized. Okay, so otherwise so the understandable purpose it's a very it go difficult, and its maintainability is difficult, and somehow the problems, unnecessary problems will raise. Okay, so just follow the structure, I'm saying that. And so easier for, so easier for testing and debugging also. Okay, so with clear organization, with clear structures, the developers or some we nothing but developers can more easily locate the components that needs to be testing or debugging, leading to a faster resolution issues. Okay, so debugging it is one of the most important task as a developer. So in order to understand where the code is going, and what are the fields, or what are the objects that it is getting and it is giving to the other software as well, and how the communication, and with what fields and with what parameters the communication is happening, and from which line to which line the code is going. So these all are important points that we can understand through the debugging only. So that debugging also becomes such easy by understanding, by following this structure. Okay, so let's see what is the suggested package structure. Okay, in order to do any payment. Okay, let's say, we have a package. Let's say comdat, it's nothing but arts. So okay, mm, take anything that likes cpt or something, the payments. Okay, so we are going through the payments, so that's why I am just mentioning it as a payment. Okay, and we have, so what, let's say what are the fields. We have controller. um, I'll explain each part. Okay, so basically we may write business logic here. We have the dev layer here, and we have config layer. Some of the configurations we can put here. We have nothing but constant field. It's nothing but the repeatedly used constants that we may put here, because it decreases the hard code values. Okay, and so utils, basically in the utils we may consider the enums as well. Those are also nothing but constants enums are same. Pojo classes, and I'll explain again. So in that Pojo classes we may have, so these Pojos, maybe we can consider it as a request. We can say in another response format as well. Okay, and finally, and we have the DTO layers as well. Let's understand what it is, but I will tell you everything. Okay, and finally, what this means, entity means. Okay, okay, so we need to understand each part. Okay. And let me tell you one of the important concept before these. Okay, so naming conventions. So here I am following one of the naming convention. Okay, like in the controller field, I am writing controller related fields. Okay, so in the service layer, I am writing the business logic. I say, and in the DAO layer, I say the repository related and the database related things. Okay, so that's how the configurations are. So I'm maintaining one of the naming convention, right? So these naming conventions, so these are the base package. It's so here the base package is com.cpt.payments. So these base package typically follows a standard convention, okay, using the reverse domain name. So the basically it's a reverse in a reverse, it's a payment.cpt.com. It's okay. So this helps prevent the naming conflicts with other libraries and ensures that the uniqueness. Okay, here it's I say com.cpu.payments suggest that this package it contains two payment processing functionalities. Okay, so by viewing this name, by watching this name, you will realize that okay, it's a it's a payment related package. Okay, so that's how these important as the naming conventions. Okay, here it's a naming convention. It is com dot cpt dot payments. Okay, and what is this controller? Okay, so the responsibility of controller, it is nothing but this package contains of the classes or responsible for handling incoming http request, and controllers serve as the entry point for the api calls and handle routing to appropriate services. Okay, so basically controller, let me say one example that in a class, okay, public class, let's say payment. So I'm taking one example just. So in this example, uh, let's say we have a method. Okay, let's say we have a um, public string, name anything called add something. Let's say anything. Okay, so here we mentioned we can make it as an API call by making it it's just like request mapping. Okay, here we can add anything, just an object or something. Okay, here we are dealing with orders, right? So let's say order. Okay, whenever the HTTP call hits the by using the name orders, then the call comes to here. Let's say what it is nothing but post mapping. Okay, so it's just a post mapping. whenever the post http methods, I say post, get, or update or patch something, right? So whenever the call comes to the http post method, then this method will trigger, okay? So in this, inside of this method, we may have something, we may have fields or some things, okay? And the just so basically the service basically this control layer just gives takes the http request and give call to the service layer. The service layer, it is nothing but the layer which has the uh, which does have the complete business logic, okay? uh, so this how a controller basically look like. So in a project we can have any number of controllers, so based on a request, based on a requirement, okay? So these what is service layer means. And another thing, sorry, first we need to make it as a rest controller. It's okay. So we can here use controller annotation as well, but the rest controller annotation, it's come with the combination of. So rest controller is basically a combination of both a response body and as well as a controller. That's why in latest technologies and in latest projects, we basically use the REST controller annotation. Okay, so in order to tell it is a service layer, we also need to mention the class with the annotation service. Okay, so these basically service class contains the core business logics of the application, okay? They process the inputs from the controllers and interacts with the data access layer and return requests, okay? So here let's say example, let's say we have the payment service, right? So the payment service class might contain methods like create order or something, and create order report DTO request. So to handle these business rules related to payment processing, we are using this service layer, okay? So what it basically means that in order to maintain business logics, we basically use the service layer, okay? um, what is a controller layer means. So the controller layer means it accepts the basically http request, okay? So these this is basically responsible for handling the http request and as well as the http responses, okay? Okay, so service layer, it maintains the business logic, and also it has another features like it can interact with the DAO layer, interact with database layer. So here another thing we need to understand is the controller layer can't directly communicate with the DAO layer or the database layer. Okay, it communicate with the service layer, and the service layer will directly interact with the DAO layer. So when controller needs some information from the database, then first it calls the service layer. So these service layer will interact with the database layer, and it retrieves the data from the database, and it will return this data to the controller as well. So that's how these because we are using here the MVC structure, right? So that's why this happens, okay? So Dove layer, it is nothing but we can call it is also repository layer also we can call, and we also call it as a data access object. Okay, so this package basically contains the classes that that manages the database interactions. Okay, so what I said, this basically contains the classes that interact with the database. Okay, so and this does basically this encapsulates the operations related to data persistence and retrieval, and promoting loose coupling also. Okay, so in this dove layer, when we use the hibernate, so it contains the inbuilt methods. Okay, it provides inbuilt methods. So there are some methods like a post and getting the details of the one ID, and updating the details of the one person. Okay, so these all are some of the inbuilt method. Okay, this combines this repository layer basically. So I said we can also call it as a repository layer, right? So this repository layer contains some of the inbuilt methods like post, get, update, delete. So it doesn't contain the all inbuilt methods, it just basic methods like post, get, update, delete. So it provides basic methods so in order to use. And if you want to use another the just nothing but the user defined methods, we can mention those user defined methods in the repository layer. Then we need to give the implementation for that user defined methods in the service layer, and then we can use these in the service layer and in the controller layer as well. Okay, this is how the flow happens. Basically these three fields, the controller layer and the service layer, DAO layer, it is important in the Spring Boot application or in the MVC application. Okay, it's a config field. So config, it is nothing but a configuration package. Okay, so the in this configuration package, the houses classes that defines the application configurations, such as the security settings and beans and definitions and property loading, etc. etc. So in our example, basically the database configurations class might configure the data source properties and as well as the established connections among those. Okay, and then we have a constants. Okay, what are those constants means? So this package is used for basically the managing the defining applications wide constants. Okay, by centralizing constants you avoid the hard coding values throughout your code base and improving maintainability. Okay, just let's take an example that our India. So basically we call it as a locally right for language. So mm, our language is basically looks like this. Sorry, looks like this. What it is means like the Indian English. Okay, so when you are using these languages in your project or something, so uh, how many times you need to use these in your project and how you can hard code every time. Okay, so this languages is Indian for the Indian users only. So if you want to make the language dynamic. Okay, if you want to make the language for everyone accessible, or anyone can give those in their field, so at that time it is somehow difficult if you hard code it. Okay, so because of this, so you need to give the constants field. Okay, uh, and if you want to access them, you can access them easily. So it decreases the hard coding, it increases the readability, it increases the maintainability also. Okay, I think some of the basically we called enums. Okay, so if it is a single value, you can make it as a constant and you can use it. But how when it have a group of constants, okay, that's where the enum concept is come in existence. Okay, this enums is, it is also one of the important concept in order to understand. Okay, it is nothing but combination of constants, let's say combination of constants, and the fields in the enums, it is nothing but the final fields. So the once the final fields are declared, you cannot change their, cannot change the fields as well. Okay, final variables enums are basically. Okay, and say util package. So why this util package is used means, so the utility classes contains the reusable methods in it and the functions that can be called from various parts of the application, and these often include some of the common tasks like date formatting or string manipulations, etc. Okay, let's say the methods, it's just like a reusability in the Java programs. Okay, so when we want need when we need different methods in order to use in the entire application, so it is difficult every time writing that code or hard coding in our project, it is somehow difficult, right? So in order to decrease that burden, so we write all these methods in the util package, and then we can use it whenever we want, we can call them and we can use them whenever we want. Okay, so basically, so what are those nothing but, it is nothing but reusability of methods and or functions, so that can be called from the various fields of application, let's say. Okay, so okay, so in our project we can use this like a date utils package. Okay, so in date util class might be. So next is Pojo classes. Okay, these Pojo classes basically represent the data structure for incoming request and outgoing responses. Okay, this package can be divided into sub packages for request and responses to maintain clarity also. So so what do you say? So it's Pojos represents the, these basically represents the um, data structures for incoming and outgoing responses. Okay, so what does this means basically means, when another software wants to communicate with our software, basically these send the data in the form of Pojo classes only. Okay, um, DTO and Pojo are a similar type of objects, but these Pojos are used in while communicating with the software to another software, while the DTOs are used within the same, so is a layer, service layer, and within our package. Okay, so let's say for example for the um, it contains the Pojo, it contains the request and response as well. So it is not a mandatory to divide these classes as well, but if you want, it is based on your requirement. If you want to divide those request and response, so you can divide. And basically the request and the response may be in separate form also. That's how this work. And like I said, a DTO, so it is nothing but DTOs are basically used to transfer data between two layers of the application, okay, such as from the controller to the service or between services, okay. They help in structuring data appropriately while preventing the exposure of the internal structure of the clients. So these DTOs, okay, let me write once. So I think, so I said what is, these are used for the um, transfer the data between two layers. So what are those layers? In our package only, in our project only. So in our project, we may contain the controller layer, service layer, and as well as the controller, and as well as the DAO layer, right? So in order to communicate data, transfer data among those layers only. So that's where the DTO layer used. This Pojo is different from the DTO layer. The data may be same in Pojo and as well as the DTO layer, um, but the usage is different, okay. So the DTO is used in the in the form of our project, and the Pojo classes that are used in the on the software, okay. That's all. It's a small different, but it is very important to understand, because these pojos are we are not using in our project. We only use DTOs. Okay. Then we convert these DTOs into pojo classes as well in order to send our data to the other softwares. Okay. In order to get likewise, in order to get the data from the other softwares, so we use the pojo classes. But after we get the data, we convert these pojo class data into our DTO layer and we can use them, okay. So that's how this process works. And entity layer, so what is entity layer? So this package, it is nothing but it contains the collection of map to database tables, okay. So entities represents the application's data model, and those are often annotated with the ORM. It's nothing but object relational mapping frameworks such as Hibernate or JPA, okay. These entities are basically, it is nothing but in entities we may use the annotations like table, sorry. So here we may use annotations like table, or annotation like ID. Somehow these annotations we use it just like data, and somehow these are used. But what is this entity means? It's maps. Okay. So basically, it maps the database tables. Okay. Class, class or classes. Okay. That maps the database tables, okay. I said that the Hibernate or JPA basically. So these maps the details. So what does it means? So in order to send data, if you're sending data, so these data is converted to the database tables, okay. This is basically the object relational mapping type, okay. Okay, it's a important thing. It is nothing but it is a object relational mapping. This is done by the entities only, done by the entity field here, entity classes here. So Hibernate, it is nothing but the we know that it is Hibernate. It's ORM solution for the framework. So what is means ORM means it's nothing but the object relational mapping. So when when you want to map those objects with the related tables in the database. So if there is any table not presented in the database, so these JPA or this Hibernate will automatically generate a table based on our based on a requirement and based on the entities we are providing in our project. Okay, so I think this is the end of this demo for me, and thank you for giving this opportunity for me. Thank you.